Things are getting real in Kenora, Saskatchewan. Hockey Day in Saskatchewan. The banquet tonight, the hot stove with Marty McSorley and Don Chesney. We had Ches on earlier. Joining us here live now, the man, the myth, the legend, Marty McSorley. You come in yesterday. This is just the kind of guy you are. Brandon talked about it earlier. You came in yesterday for quite a senior game, and you just went on the bench, kind of help coach and shooting the breeze.
Well, I had a good chance of getting some moonshine if I go on the bench with those guys, right? So, no, I'm just kidding. You know what? I grew up on a farm. I grew up in a small town. I've got 6 brothers. They played in so many different leagues. Got suspended, but for most of them. But I really enjoy that. So I come into Saskatchewan and Alberta and a lot of the towns that are doing so many wonderful things. And I get a chance to. The guys are real. You get in the locker room, you sit with the guys, and you feel like you're at home. You know.
Well, you mentioned that the story. I think you tell one of the stories tonight. Like it was Lloydminster a few years ago, and a great story about you're going to do an event there. And everyone's like, "Oh no, the rink blew over, outdoor rink, stuff like that," and you're like, "No, they'll get it done."
Yeah, absolutely. I was riding in with one of the gentlemen from Scotiabank. He's from Toronto. Nice, really good young man. Worked hard. We did breakfast television in Edmonton, and I was going out to Lloyd. What a wonderful event out there. And we stopped at like 3 different banks. Well, he got a phone call saying, "Oh my God, there was a big windstorm last night. All the light standards blew over. The boards are all ruined. The whole rink is ruined. We're not going to be able to do our outside events, our alumni game, and everything else." And I looked at him and said, "Oh no, we'll play." And he's like, no, you don't understand. I said, no, you don't understand. And he goes, no. So we got there, and all the local guys, they put the calls out. The cranes were there. The lights were up. The welders were there. All the guys that needed to be there to do the job, the local community put the word out, and it got done. And he looked at me and said, "How did you know?" I said, "I know the people." And that to me is just wonderful about me coming up here.
You come from a big family. You talked about farmers, like 10 kids or something?
10 kids, yeah. Got my ass whooped. Well, 6 brothers. Right? So the oldest was a girl and 7 boys in a row. God bless my mom. I mean, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, she used to say, "Boys, there's no ice in the penalty box."
No ice in the penalty box. You a lot of the thing too that people kind of forget is you started your career in Pittsburgh the first time around, and because everyone remembers you playing with Gretzky, you got to play with a young Mario. It's just right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my first year there, we were not a good team. We earned the right to draft Mario, so all the buildings would be half full, all jeans and T-shirts because the tickets are passed down, and they realized very early that Mario was going to be the first pick, and he was the prize to finish last. And so it was I had a chance to learn and play against Lafleur and Gilbert Perreault and all of those guys and make my mistakes. And then later then Mario came in, and you see this unbelievable amount of talent in a really young kid. And then him progress, and then I went back and played with him later, 10 no more than that 10 years later. And the way that franchise then took off because of Mario's presence. But it was really eye-opening, and it prepared me to be able to go on and make my steps.
You don't see this really anymore at all. But another thing people forget, you played wing and D.
There was it was about 4 or 5 years ago, they were talking about guys that played forward in defense, and they were mentioning a few guys, and I'm like, I'm at home going, because I was fortunate enough, and Glenn Sather believed it. He was really great. He championed for me in a lot of ways. But so with him, I played both forward and defense in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Wow.
And but I think it's made me a better hockey person. It made me understand defense more after having to play forward more after having played defense. To go back and forth in key times of the game. It was a sneaky way to get more ice time, right? And to be more valuable. And it's funny. Later in my career, there was times that like Barry Melrose, to make an impact on the game, would throw me out for a shift up front, and just kind of turn me loose, and then go back and play D the rest of the game.
You're still going to find minor hockey teams around these parts and stuff where the coach will do that early on in a series or a game, throw some meat up front, go crash some bodies.
But when I coached in the American Hockey League, my better players, I always in practice had them play D also, because if I need to put 5 guys on a power play, my best 5, if they're accountable defensively, you can put them on the ice on a power play and let them just go and play. Trust that they're going to make the right decisions and be responsible. But I think you got to work with them a little bit and practice them. Also, too, I tell parents all the time, if your kid's a winger, put them on the blue line. Everybody needs defensemen.
Wow.
Every league, NHL, all of them. What do they talk about? What do they need? Defensemen. So if a kid can learn how to play defense, you're valuable.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I got to ask you, how do you ever think, about Brandon and I were watching it today, the illegal stick call? That's something I'd love to. Again, I forgot about it, and I'm like, that was Marty's sticks.
Yeah. Well, I do think about it, and the interesting thing when it happened, I'm like, I was like, really, I can't believe that they'd call that.
Do you have any inkling, like throughout the year?
Well, let me finish, and you're gonna. And so we were in the locker room after. We're like, really? Because we had like 6 guys that all had their sticks over, but barely, and all you had to do was file a heel or different things. Well, I've had 3 or 4 Montreal Canadiens. This is worse than Tom Brady's scenario. It's worse than other teams. They measured all our sticks between the second and third period. They took our whole stick rack in their bedroom. So, from that standpoint, when they measured everybody's stick, it was. And actually, our video guy took a film of the Montreal bench of 6 or 7 of their guys when they called mine, handing their sticks back to the trainer. Because if there's close, you would not call it because it's a penalty on you if you're wrong. And our Barry Melrose just said, no, we don't plan on trying to win a game that way. But so after the fact, it's not hard. It's not. You can't help but be a little bit bitter, because if that's really what they're going to stoop to.
You guys go up 2-0 in that series. I'm like,
Yeah, because my dad was such a huge Montreal Canadiens fan. He was in love the Rocket, right? And so, from that standpoint, Montreal being a storied franchise, and I played with Larry Robinson, and I had a ton of respect for guys like Lafleur and those guys. For that to be happening, I've had people say stuff that are Montreal fans, and I'm like, I don't think you should be really too proud of your team.
We got, I think, a couple minutes left here. What the state of the game right now? What the different hockey we're seeing, the skill, not a lot of the fighting or the body checking and all that. What do you think about the state of the game right now?
Well, first of all, I think that the playoffs are the best playoffs in sports. I think that it is so hard on your stars. I mean, for those guys to go through it, so you can't expect them to play like that all season long. It'll just kill those guys. I think that the guys like McKinnon, I think Sidney Crosby, I think Connor McDavid, and I think Austin. So many of them are really, really good young men. So I think that the game is in really good hands of really good young men, and so really good role models and examples. I don't like all the rules. I would make different changes. I don't necessarily like all the people that are making the decisions, to be honest with you, right? But I really trust in the players, and I think that from that standpoint, we're really fortunate.
Yeah, no, it's great. Four Nations Cup, where do you land on best pre-Olympics here?
Okay. Would Canada stop putting plumbers on the third and the fourth line? If you go back to 1987, they went to Dale Howartuck, who was a marvelous player, and said, would you kill penalties and play fourth line? Yes. He scored big goals given opportunities. I mean, put the best, trust the stars. Don't overthink it. Trust the best players. Getzlaf and Perry to play for Canada. They could play second line or fourth line. Made no difference because they were great players. Put the best players out there, trust them because they're really good young men, and don't overthink it. And also really go to really good hockey men. Go to a Mark Messier, go to guys like that to make decisions on your players. Don't do it with bureaucrats.
Yeah. Americans are going to be good though too, right?
And they should be good because they've been coming and they've put a lot into it, right? And I mean, the colleges and whatever. I mean, the game has grown. I go to the games in ASU, Arizona State. They've got a wonderful program. They're building it, And it's also a place for a lot of Canadian kids to go play at the same time, right? So they've done a lot of very good things. And so they're going to be better. And they've got role models like Brian Leach, Chelios. They've got some great role models that these young kids could play like.
I can't wait for the hot stove tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming by quickly here.
No, you know what? It's great. Thank you, guys. It's a great game. I love promoting it. I'm a fan myself.
That is the legend Marty McSorley here live in Kenora.